Good morning. It's Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. This is Rob Sinnett, CEO Technician on X, Goldfinger on CEO.c, and this is Goldfinger Capital on Substack. Before we get started, please share any content that I make that you find to be value added, educational, insightful, whatever. I appreciate it greatly. I appreciate your viewership, and I look forward to adding some value to you in this video. So we're starting with Hercules Metals. I'm just going to talk about Hercules and IDEX. There's two news releases from Idaho Copper Belt, Idaho Porphyry Belt Explorers this morning. A lot to dig into here. I can't possibly address it all in a 30-minute video, but we're going to cover the important things. And obviously, there's always going to be more time in the future to generate more insights and more content. So Hercules Metals completes district scale MT-NSIP survey on Hercules property, Idaho. Okay, so they did this MT survey in June. IDEX did an MT survey. Scout did an MT survey. The same company, Bariga USA, did it for all three. They were out there in the field pretty much the whole month of June, and they got her done. So this is a huge survey comprising over 100 square kilometers. Do you know how big 100 square kilometers is? It's massive. A large undertaking. It's going to take some time to process all the data. You can only imagine how much data this survey generated, right? And then it's the processing of it, the polishing of it, the fine-tuning of it, and the interpretation that gets the value. So basically, both Hercules and IDEX said, look, we expect to have the final inversions, the final interpretations in August. So, let's say 4 to 6 weeks from now, we should probably get something from Hercules, IDEX, possibly Scout, although Scout is private, so they don't have the same sort of timeline or urgency to publish data to the public markets, right? But we have some insights here in this news release. First of all, they more than 10x'd their coverage area. So going from 12 square kilometers to 120 square kilometers, that's big, right? And Hercules and Scout are sharing their data. So they basically combined on the survey. They shared the expense of it, and they're sort of working together. Obviously, the property packages are contiguous, and both projects, both companies affect the other one clearly at this point in time. Blah, blah, blah. So the resistivity applications, like, what is this useful for? Well, two key bullet points: mapping of regional fault structures and structural contacts, where they intersect. Why is that important? Because that's often where porphyries might be in proximity. And just understanding the fault structures helps in a lot of things, including in drilling and drill placement. And, when we drill down a fault, it's usually not a good idea, as we learned in 2024, right? And then interpretation of alteration zonation. So some learning here. Every district's a little different, but usually the phyllic halo around the porphyry intrusion, or around the center of the porphyry, is conductive, right? And the core of it, the potassic core, is resistive. So what does that mean exactly? Well, the potassic zone of the porphyry is abundant in K feldspar and biotite. And those minerals are not conductive, really. Okay, they're just not. So even though the potassic core might be like 1% copper in certain areas, or 0.8% copper, whatever, like higher grade copper, yeah, there's chalcopyrite and bornite in there, but you still have to think about it. If the grade is 1% copper, then it's 1%, right? So 99% is other, is other minerals and various other elements, okay? And biotite and K feldspar are not conductive. So even though there is bornite and chalcopyrite in the core of a porphyry, in the potassic core, there is not enough fracturing or fluid flow to make it show up as conductive on an MT or IP survey. All right, so that's just the basic knowledge. Is the MT data will help light up alteration zonation, and since Hercules already has so much data from 2023 and 2024, and they have the drilling data, they can overlay it and get much stronger insights, like really powerful insights into future targeting. So I think that's really important. And obviously we're all fascinated and intrigued to see the results of the survey, but they kind of give us some hints here. So yeah, the regional fault targeting, right? Large structural corridors, which often serve as conduits for porphyry emplacement, right? And that's something we'll get back to later. And the potential for additional concealed centers can now be further unlocked. That's a big tease. That's a big tease. And I would say that sentence would not be placed in this news release unless there were some really nice anomalies showing up in the early data, some screaming targets, okay? And who knows where those targets are exactly, but maybe Western Deeps and Southern Flats, or maybe further north into this unknown area, could be some areas of interest, right? I don't know. We'll just have to see. Everybody's just going to have to wait and just trust that the company is going to give us that information when it's in the best interest of shareholders, right? And then the depth resolution. So the fact that these surveys can see more than 2 kilometers deep and sometimes much more than that, that's super powerful because porphyries are deep often, and the roots of the porphyries are deep for sure, right? There's going to be a central or a couple of central porphyry stocks that are the hand that brought up all the fingers, all the different porphyry intrusions, all the different the timing of the different porphyritic events. And then they basically say the conductivity anomaly associated with the Leviathan porphyry, the main one, the one they're drilling right now with 5 rigs, it indicates expansion potential along trend, right? So we got that in the last news release in June. They're seeing plenty of expansion potential to the northeast and to the south along trend. And also because they have the drill data here in the core area, the main area of focus since 2023, it gives them a baseline for evaluating how high priority various other new anomalies will be for drilling across the properties. It's hugely powerful. This was a very important investment for Hercules to make. And then they basically say a resistivity high, prominent one, has emerged right underneath the eastern block, where we know they have that huge, what is it, like 2,000 or 3,000 meter wide soil and rock chip anomaly in the eastern block zone. So my interpretation here is there's a partially intact potassic zone, potassic core of a porphyry that was tilted and then maybe even thrust up. So it was up thrust and it was eroded. So the upper parts might be gone over there in the eastern block, but we're going to find out because there's 3 drill holes planned over there. And then this is interesting. New surface mapping demonstrates a folding pattern consistent with doming, which may support the presence of an underlying intrusive stock. That's interesting because this is the topography in this area of Idaho can be quite extreme in certain areas. You've got these steep inclines and then declines, like up at Grade Creek. I mean, even Camp Creek has a pretty steep incline at Belmont, and then it flattens out a bit. But yeah, the topography is extreme, and that's doming, right? It's a folding pattern, which is consistent with an underlying intrusive stock. So all the clues, all the data is aligning and pointing to the same interpretation, painting a very similar picture of what has gone on in this area of Idaho over the last 210 million years. Yeah, and so the next steps, inversion modeling is underway. The results will be integrated with all the company's existing data and data sets. And the company anticipates that this integration will yield targets for additional porphyry centers on the expanded Hercules land package. So another subtle clue, expanded. Well, what was expanded? Well, first they staked all this Forest Service ground up here in late 2023, and then they got the Idaho state ground over here. So are they seeing some new and interesting things out here or over here? I don't know, but certainly we've gotten teases before in news releases, sort of subtle clues. I interpret this to be a potentially yet another subtle clue. So great news release this morning. It's not going to make the stock go to $1 overnight, but man, combined with the last news release at the end of June, the drill trace of hole 2502, the three subsequent planned holes right around 2502 at different orientations. And yeah, the picture is starting to come together. And for those who are paying attention, you know what I'm talking about. For those who are not paying attention and don't understand this, well, sometimes you just miss out on things. You can't you can't be exposed to every opportunity in life, I guess, right? IDEX. So this one is newly public. They just started trading in June. About a 30 million Canadian market cap at the 50-cent IPO price. It's weird how the bid book just dried up after Canada Day week, and we got this drop down to 36 cents on Monday. But that was super light volume. It's just basically people stopped paying attention. Company's been kind of quiet the last couple of weeks, but now boom, buyers came back in on Tuesday, back up to 47 cents, and then obviously we get news today. And the main takeaway is that drilling starts next week at Kismet. So that's the big thing. The maiden drill program expected to start next week, probably by next Friday at Kismet. They've got their core shack all set up. They've got their drill contractor hired. They're going to use scout drilling. And yeah, this is exciting. This is really exciting because this is, I really like this graphic. So this is a section. You see, here's A and here's A apostrophe. And you can see, so it's looking to the northeast. And here's this Bayhorse thrust fault. So this is one of the most prominent fault structures in Western Idaho. This is a big one. And so what they're showing here is, hey, look, here's our Cuddy Mine prospect. So that's their number 2 drill target. And here's our Kismet, which is a breccia pipe drill target. This is their number 1. This is where they're going first. And notice how they're in proximity to this massive regional structural corridor, right? So it makes sense. Like, you're going to have porphyries popping up all along this thing because this is an area of structural weakness, right? The earth is fracturing here, massive fracturing, major plate movement deep down in the earth, right? So you've got hydrothermal fluid flow, and you've got structural weakness popping up all along here where a porphyry could just burst up towards the Earth's surface and maybe even, intrude into the surface, and expose itself, right? And that's what this breccia pipe might be, right? So you got the porphyry deeper down, And then these unconsolidated, you got such an explosive event or explosive events happening that the unconsolidated rocks are ripping up from the porphyry intrusion and forming the breccia pipe, right? So what they find in the first 200 meters or 300 meters as they drill into the breccia pipe gives clues as to what is deeper down, what is potentially fully intact and preserved deeper down. So this is super interesting, guys. Doesn't mean that they have to have a screaming new discovery, but this was drilled once before by Bear Creek Mining in the 1960s, and they had one hole that was a vertical hole that drilled like 40 meters of 0.85% copper, right? And vertical is not the optimal orientation to drill a breccia pipe that's been tilted 60 degrees to the northwest, right? So they're gonna drill. I'm just gonna see if they have it. Oh yeah, here's the proposed drill hole. So they're gonna drill an angled hole to try to get the optimal orientation and really understand the different zones: oxide, phyllic, potassic, and then potentially into the early mineral porphyry, right? So this is a schematic, a conceptual diagram showing what they're going to try to do, right? And then Cutty Mine will be drilled once they get the Forest Service permit. So this is where's that? Oh, the drill plan is the first one. So this is Idaho Department of Lands. So this is where they have their mineral lease, so they can just drill that now. And then this area is a Forest Service, so they still need to get their Forest Service drill permit to drill the Cutty Mine prospect. So that might be August or September. With the big beautiful bill passing, who knows? I mean, I think now the Forest Service has 30 days to respond to these things. Obviously, it's the federal government, and Trump 2.0 fired a bunch of people from the Forest Service, so they might have some reasons why they can't quite do that 30-day timeline. But that seems to be what the law is now, right? We'll have to hear more about that over the coming weeks and exactly what is going on. But here they put the timeline. Mapping and sampling has been ongoing since June, will continue to occur through August, MT survey, and then drilling through September. And so the mapping and sampling is really important because this area in the Cutty Mountain Copper District, we'll call it, has not been well understood. And previously, there was just the thought that this whole thing was covered. No, you've got Triassic. You see the Hornblend's gabbro. Triassic is exposed at surface. You've got a quartzite porphyry exposed at surface. Another one. So it's not completely covered, although a big portion of it is, as you can see in gray. But the MT survey that they just conducted will help them to see through that. And the drilling at Kismet and Cutty Mine will give them data that they can then analyze in the context of the MT interpretation, the MT results, and help them find other, future targets. And you see this area all the way over here, it's just not been mapped. It's not been understood, right? So this is super exciting because this is generative work. This is early stage exploration of an emerging porphyry copper belt in the western U.S. Doesn't get much better than that right now in 2025, especially with this Trump tariff on copper and the big beautiful bill, right? So IDEX is one very interesting one. Good news release this morning. Exciting time for this new publicly traded company. And then Hercules is in this range. This it's been 12 months. Ping ponging between 78 and basically 49 for the last 12 months. We're right sort of in the middle of the range, maybe starting to move up towards the upper end of it. The technicals, I mean, with RSI just above the median line turning up, CCI also above the median line. I mean, this is looking kind of like a cool spring, guys. I don't want to be too promotional and too crazy, but I like these sorts of setups where you've got this big consolidation, this big, beautiful base in the context of the big, beautiful bill. And now we just need that match lit for a resolution to this big consolidation pattern. And I did make one other video recently I will have that on my Substack in the near future. It's a little older. It came out after the last news release. I shared it just with an exclusive group, but now you can see it too. So very exciting times in Idaho, very exciting times for mining in the U.S., copper especially. Thanks for tuning in and have a powerful week.